Real estate shouldn't be something that a tenant or a business is thinking about. It should be something that supports their business and improves their business. We look at our relationship with our tenants as more of a partnership. We're in business, our tenants are in business, and we provide space that we think hopefully will support the success of our tenants in being profitable.
So we are back with our last panel discussion of the day. Retail has been among the hardest hit by the pandemic. So how are retailers faring? What challenges do they face? To introduce the panelists for this discussion, it's my pleasure to introduce one of our sponsors of Recovery Road, Paul Moore, the Executive Vice President of Commercial Properties, Inc. Paul has more than 35 years experience in commercial real estate. His career has spanned development, property management, and brokerage throughout Atlantic, Central Canada, as well as New England. As Executive VP for Commercial Properties, he's responsible for the firm's corporate growth and strategic direction. He's also president of Brunswick Brokers Limited, a commercial real estate brokerage firm serving Atlantic Canada and beyond. Paul, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, John, for the introduction. Commercial Properties is happy to support the Chamber in this summit, as it is important to share the experiences and recovery strategies of the hardest hit industries as we all figure out how to adapt and move forward. The focus of this panel, the retail sector, is dealing with its own unique challenges, as not only has it had to endure the effect of the economy, its customers have had an alternate method to buy product through e-commerce. While the retail industry has been able to grow this, it is widely thought that COVID has accelerated these plans in a number of instances. I'm sure we are all looking forward to our panelists' thoughts and experiences as to how they've coped with this. Today, we have 4 distinguished panelists for our retail sector panel. Michael Leblanc is the founder and president of Leblanc and Company, Inc., and a senior advisor to the Retail Council of Canada. He brings more than 25 years of brand, retail, marketing, and e-commerce leadership experience, and has been on the front lines of retail industry change for his entire career. Michael is also the producer and host of a network of leading podcasts, including Canada's top retail industry podcast, The Voice of Retail, plus The Remarkable Retail with author Steve Dennis. He is also part of the global e-commerce tech talks and the food processor with Dr. Sylvain Charbois. All of these podcasts are available on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and all major podcast platforms. Michael is going to deliver the view from 35,000 feet. What is happening in the retail sector across Canada and in our region? Next, we'll have Garcia Williston and Michelle Parker, a mother-daughter team. Garcia has been in the retail industry since the mid-'80s. She started off with a leather goods kiosk in Champlain Mall, then opened a second location in Halifax Shopping Centre. Michelle started working part-time in her mother's stores in her teens. After completing university, she worked as an accountant executive for a local ad agency for approximately 10 years. After leaving the agency, Michelle and Garcia decided to open another store in Champlain Place. Since then, the business has changed directions and locations a couple of times. Their current store is Style Fashion Boutique, a ladies' fashion and accessories boutique on Main Street in downtown Moncton. Our third panelist is Jeff Kelly, who operates 8 global pet food stores throughout New Brunswick as a locally owned family business with his daughter, Allison, and son, Kieran. The family has been operating global pet food stores since 2011 as part of a Canadian franchise system. In response to the pandemic and health guidelines, Global Pet Foods New Brunswick stores offer a safe in-store shopping experience, as well as a growing e-commerce option with curbside pickup and delivery anywhere in New Brunswick. I suspect we will hear more about these initiatives in the next panel. And our final panelist is Alvin Legere, a second-generation dealer-owner of the Elmwood Group Home Hardware Building Centers. Alvin took over ownership of his first hardware store in 1990 on Elmwood Drive. Today, the Elmwood Group is comprised of 6 locations in Greater Moncton that collectively employ more than 200 people. Alvin has also branched into retail development, including the Granite Center project off Elmwood Drive, which is now home to Costco, a McDonald's, Bone and Biscuit, Starbucks, and an Elmwood Design Center. More components of the Granite Center will come on stream later this year. We're going to start our panel today discussion with Michael. So Michael, take it away.
Well, great to be here with everyone. Let me just hand that slide. Listen, it's great to be here. We have 10 minutes together, so 35,000 feet, big end. I'm going to take you through what we're seeing, and love to have the opportunity to come back and do a deeper dive, answer questions. Of course, we could talk about. I could talk about this forever. And by the way, it's great to be here, and so to speak. My dad is born and raised in Moncton at a cottage just outside of Shediac. So it's wonderful to be here with you today. All right, let's see if we can get this going. All right, so when I'm asked to, let's set the table a little bit. I'm asked what's going on in retail. What do we need to understand about retail? I put it all on one side. Modern retail on a page. Basically, retail is bifurcating along two axes: value and convenience, experience and efficiency. Those retailers who are acting at those edges are being successful than those retailers in the middle. Service is good but not great. If your assortment is okay, not spectacular, it is not the time to be boring. Retail is in trouble. Now, this is all taken from my podcast partner, best-selling author Steve Dennis. Dennis recommends you pick up his book. It's a fantastic book if you're into retail. But it really kind of lays the fact that there is no time left to be not a remarkable retail. That could be different things to different people and different sizes. But somewhere on this axis, you need to be at those points. If you're in the middle, that is the danger zone. And then this came, of course, the COVID crisis came along. And really, it hit retailers like a sledgehammer or a shockwave. Sledgehammer of closures and the shock of demands. It didn't hit retail equally, and you can see from some of these charts dramatic changes in retail environment. Our lives adapt to the COVID era have created massive disruption in retail. What we buy, how we live, where we work, how we shop, and it is created. All work from home move. To put an order of magnitude to this, and it's happening in every city across the country. In Toronto, for example, there's over 460,000 people that come in and out of the downtown core each and every workday. That's close to zero right now. That has tremendous impacts. Now, will it last? One of the biggest questions: will the work from home movement last? What will it look like? I'm going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. This may be one of the longer lasting implications of the COVID era. This too shall pass, but over the long run, that's not something that was a big pre-COVID and the before. What we've seen is the rise of the outdoor, the active economy. We know it's safer to be outdoors than in, and there's winners and losers, right? In the category, grocery benefited from the massive shift of consumption out of restaurants, home improvement. Gardening, furniture, outdoor economy has done well. Pandemic puppies trend, alcohol and cannabis all done very well. Challenges in food service, obviously. Apparel, some apparel's done better. Others, you can see in the bottom right-hand screen just a general look at apparel and how much it is struggling. I'll get into that a little bit later. Travel and tourism. Your prior speakers talking about them. If you're a tourism business, it has been very, very difficult. This work from home movement, and I pull slides about it because it's very, very important to where retailers are. It's very important how people shop. There is, recent studies just come out in January. 28% of Canadians looking to a smaller community or rural location. This is an important trend.
Michael,
now, they're looking for different. Yes.
Mike, sorry, it's John here. We're getting a lot of echo. We're wondering if maybe there's a set of speakers or something on in the background.
Nope, not for me.
Okay.
No, how's that? Is that better?
No, it's still a little bit of an echo there.
Might be someone who's got their sound on because mine's coming through here. Anyone?
Well, let's give it a test drive and see how it works.
All right. Sorry about that. And like I'm saying, it's very important to understand the work from home movement because people work from home, shop online more. This is from WC statistics from PC. So let's get into what's been happening. Retail results came out Friday for the month of December, which also gives us a year view on what's in retail. Retail results up 3% year over year in December. They were up almost 13% in November. One level down, there's tremendous difference. Some categories doing tremendously well. Grocery, home improvement, outdoor goods are doing tremendously well. Others are not doing well at all. And in the month of December, the chart on the top right is a month-over-month change from November to December. And you can see almost all categories were not doing well. And it was a very unusual December. The biggest markets in the country were essentially closed. I'm in lockdown right now. Quebec has curfew starting to open up, but where I am, Toronto, stores are still closed. And only essential stores are allowed to be open. When we took a bit of a deep dive, and I'm going to make this PowerPoint presentation available for everyone, so you'll have all the stats. But again, this is statistics from Stats Canada, released on Friday. It gives you the annual look at the category doing better than other. You see food and beverage 10%. You can see alternatively clothing stores, shoe stores down in the 20s. So the massive impact, plus and minus, into the sector. And when you look at it regionally, you can see where the impacts have been. Atlantic, with the Atlantic bubble, is kind of flat. Vancouver, which has moderated lockdowns, but you can't throw areas like Ontario, Toronto into lockdowns and make arbitrary decisions about what's essential, what's non-essential, and come out of that hole. Retail in Canada, we were advocating what essentially was done in Alberta, which was all stores were allowed to be open, but the limit on how many people were in the store is 5 and 20%. We were not successful in the two larger provinces. So it is an essential versus non-essential. We talk about e-commerce. Listen, 2020 was e-commerce's biggest year. We've probably been shot through a cannon of time. We are probably 5 years ahead of where we expected to. It's not like e-commerce growing pre-COVID, growing about 16, 18%. Stats Canada tells us it grew 70% in 2020. Probably understating it, because not all, for a variety of reasons, that's probably understating the growth of e-commerce. Generally, again, it's expected to be 5.9% of total retail. But when you take out automotive and gasoline core retail, we estimate it's between 14 and 16%. It's probably not going to stay at the current torrid pace. It's not kind of like the tidal bore, it comes in. But when stores open, when it's simmered down across the people go back to shop stores. So it's going to stay at this pace. It's very unusual. We've been locked down here 90+ days, so it's a very distorting impact on e-commerce. But it's not back to where it was before. There's no going back to the levels pre-COVID. And one of the indicators of this is e-commerce growth. So e-commerce grocery is one of the poster childs for growth. 4.2 million Canadians shopped online for food that hadn't done so in 2020. And e-commerce spins the wheel for e-commerce growth and adoption. We see that around the world. We see that everywhere. Once consumers start shopping online for groceries, they quickly expand to other categories. So as grocery grows, so does e-commerce, so does adoption, so does frequency. Also are seeing tremendous changes in consumer behavior. We've never had a circuit breaker on consumer behavior like this since the Second World War, really. And so it is both a jump ball moment, as risk and its opportunity. I asked my friends at REWE to take a look at categories and ask consumers in Canada, would they shop differently for these categories? Take a look at active, which people are still buying. 57%. You know what? I'm going to buy it differently when this is all over. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to buy it online. You can see some of the growth. I'm going to buy it general retailer. I buy it in a thrift store. Two very big brands. Consumers now are, retail is appointment shopping. The retailers are offering a mixed basket of goods, one-stop shopping, doing pretty good actually right now, because consumers just want to get in, by and large, get out, a lot of browsing. So expect some of this behavior to change. We really don't know how consumers are going to change their behavior after this 18 to 2-year period of the COVID era. We do know what they say is when and how they change. And you can see here whether it's change in work, lower prices, and supporting local business. Very important, connected to the work from movement, but it's also connected. Canadians are connecting the dots in every community across country that supporting their local business, no matter what that business is into their economy. It's the it's the retailer that sponsors their kids' soccer club, or all these things. Canadians are connecting those. So this is the bins dollar question. No one really knows the answer to this. We're starting to ask consumers. This is from PwC. When are you going to feel comfortable? Are you going to feel comfortable returning to? And see here, cruise boats on one end of the spectrum, shopping in a grocery store on the other. It all comes down. I did a report. I wrote a report for Retail Council, talked to dozens and dozens of retailers, and I call it deja vu all over again. It's like one of the speakers says, 2021 is a lot like 2020. Well, the vaccine. So in many ways, we see this. Our focus now is understanding, participating in the vaccine and in the variant. We've seen what the variant can do. We saw it in Newfoundland. We see it in Newfoundland today. If the variants get loose, the vaccine and our progress in the vaccine is going to open up the economy. And this is a chart I follow from Oxford University. I kind of track this one like I used to track the infection time last year. Canada is well behind the world, and it's we've got some good news coming out of the federal government that they're going to catch up. We can only hope, because it all depends on when and the economy opens, when our start to return to normal. It's not going to be like throwing a switch, but our lives should start to return to normal. By the time holiday comes along, retailers saying, listen, I can't serve their holiday of lockdowns. There'll be carnage in retail if this doesn't get sorted out. And Retail Council of Canada is active on advisory councils in terms, once we get past first tier, second tier, who gets the vaccine in terms of recommendations to the provinces, frontline workers, tour trailer drivers, all kind of essential. Keep the supply chain, vaccinate the supply chain, vaccinate the front lines of all the people who are working on the front lines. We're keeping our eye on vaccine hesitancy in the United States. It's a bigger thing. See, the retailers in the United States are actually paying their employees to take the vaccine, not just paying for the vaccine. They're paying $150 to get employees vaccinated as a bonus to take the vaccine. We're not in that situation. We don't have enough to worry about it, but we're keeping our eye on it. 2021 going to roll out. Is it going to return normal? Yes, but mostly no. It's kind of an 8-month mulligan. The economy will recover. We're optimistic. There is optimism. $100 billion stock of consumer fund been spent. Will e-commerce stick? Yes and no. Most it will kind of simmer down, but it's going back to where it was. Will employees go back to office? You tell me. Many say it's going to be hybrid. And right now, the focus in retail is on mental health. We can do as much as we can to keep physically safe, but this is a big year for mental health. If you're in the retail community, we have lots of events at Retail Council of Canada, and I host a lot of information very quickly. Here's a podcasts that I host each and every week with lots of insights. And if you have any questions, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to answer them. And hopefully I could join in and go into a deeper, longer dive. And that's our cottage that we had just outside of Shediac. So wonderful to be here with one, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Michael. And I appreciate you saying that you'll make available the presentation to our audience, because we did unfortunately continue to have some audio problems throughout. So we apologize for that, but hopefully we can get that under control. But we believe, Michael, you do need to sign off. You have another event, correct? Right. Okay. Yep. Well, thanks very much on behalf of the Chamber for joining us today and for that 35,000 foot view.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. So next up on the panel is Michelle and Gracia from Style Fashions on Main Street. And they are really representative of an independent retailer. So we wanted to have their voice, their perception on what they've gone through and what they're dealing with and what they really need to recover. So Michelle and Gracie, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, John. And I'm sure there's lots of great information that we missed because of that echoing. So it'll be great to get that information.
Can you guys hear us, by the way? Is it clear? Okay, perfect. Great. Thank you.
Well, we'll just say our little story, as I'm sure it'll be a story that's familiar to most of us in the independent clothing store industry. So not an unfamiliar story, as it happened to everyone. Came upon us very quickly. We closed our doors March 17th, laid off most of our staff, and we were closed for 2 full months. That being said, for this industry, we had pretty much received most of our spring stock, or quite a high percentage of it by that time. And typically those 2 months would be when we would be selling to our travel clientele that travels a lot. So obviously, you know, that was quite a change of pace. So we had a store full of spring and summer stock and 0 customers for 2 months. So when we get back to reopening in May, our season for selling our spring and summer was shortened by that much time, which makes quite a significant difference in what you can get in your full margins. So it's impossible to really get that back. How we coped with this? Well, we did our best. We did our best with trying to stay in touch with our clientele through our Facebook. We did our best with, you know, just coping with the situation at hand personally. So we stayed in touch with our customers through our Facebook, our social media. We did we offered curbside pickup and home delivery for people that were around. While we had our doors closed, we did some fashion shows on Facebook. So, you know, this is what we did. A couple of programs that made a big difference was, you know, we took advantage of the Canadian Emergency Business Account program, which was great because it allowed us to stay in good standing with our suppliers, because we had received all these goods that were basically not out for sale. And we also, our landlord took advantage of the rental relief program, which made a very big difference in the support that we needed at that particular time. So I'll pass it over to Michelle to.
So yeah, we were asked as part of the panel to kind of answer 4 questions, and I'm sure everyone has the same questions, so we'll all get our turn to get to them. So Grace looked after what happened when it closed, what the challenges were. So I'm going to look at what the challenges were since we've been open. So now that we're reopened and getting, you know, back out there again, what have we been faced with, and what are we, you know, what are some of the big ones? Most of them are pretty obvious. So they're not really hidden challenges that people are not going to know about. But the number one challenge for us here downtown as a boutique is that there is so few people that have gone back to work. I know Michael mentioned it in his presentation, but that is definitely our number one challenge. So people are working at home. There's very little traffic in the downtown area. So number one challenge. The second challenge that sort of stems from that first challenge is there are a lot of people who are trying to, you know, make the effort to come downtown and support other local residents who are just making the effort, like I say, but they are unfortunately greeted with the homeless issue that we have downtown right now. So it's kind of a 2-tier problem. So those that are making the effort are unfortunately approached, which is intimidating. You know, that just kind of trickles down, and then it, you know, it's discouraging them to come back again. So it is a really huge problem for us. I don't have an answer to it, but it's just another level of the traffic problem that you're currently facing in the downtown area. We also feel that given those 2 situations, that possibly the city might be able to help us a little bit more, that we don't feel that they are. There could be just small examples, like, I know it's an income source for them, but free parking would be wonderful given the fact that there's no one here to begin with. Why not try and give them a reason or an excuse to try coming downtown to shop instead? Before Christmas, the city overall did a great job at pushing shopping local. It was wonderful, and we saw such a great response to that, you know, so, and we thank all of those who have come and shopped downtown because you are supporting local. Thank you. But there kind of hasn't been so much of that since the holiday season, and we are still here trying to, you know, keep everything's going, all the things going. So, you know, it'd be great if there would be a little more push on that also. Another challenge for us in the clothing industry, particularly, I'm sure, is how we buy our goods. Normally, we would be able to go to shows, meet face to face with our reps, feel the fabric, try it on, see what it's like, you know, the real color, not just what it looks like on a screen. All those things we're not able to do. We can't really outsource new things as easily as we did before when we go to trade shows and come across something that was the, you know, up and coming thing. That's really not impossible, but a major challenge is what I'm discussing. So we're just doing it like everything else is being done virtually, just like this summit here, you know, so, and we're hoping that we're making the right choices. That's really crossing our fingers and hoping it's done right. So those are our major challenges. The last part of what we were asked to touch on was how we could maybe get to full recovery. I'm going to put that in quotation marks because I don't know if that's actually an attainable thing to go full recovery. But it brings me back to our major challenge, which is for us, the closest that we can get to get us back on the right path would be for people to go back to work. That would be the biggest difference for us and the best way for us to get back to, you know, somewhat regular. And not just people in the downtown area. Obviously for us, downtown makes a big difference, but those just going back to work in their office environment. We need people to have a reason to get up and get dressed and leave the house so that they need new clothes or they, you know, want to feel different about what they're wearing when they leave. It's not the same thing that, you know, you can take off the sweater and save it for tomorrow's meeting if you're working virtually and put your pajamas back on, right? So, you know, that's pretty much our story. I think it's probably a very, you know, common one through this industry, through the retail fashion industry, but that's our little story.
Thanks very much, Michelle and Gracia, and thanks for participating today. So our next speaker is somebody who I've known for a lot of years, I guess, Jeff. We were former neighbors and our kids played together, and I've watched him over the years really become one of the leading business people here in Greater Moncton. So it's my pleasure at this point to invite to speak next Jeff Kelly of Global Pet Foods.
Thank you. Gracia and Michelle, you'll be happy to know I'm not wearing my pajamas, so that's good. Okay. Actually, I was really pleased to be on the panel with Gracia, Michelle, and Alvin, because I think they're examples of local businesses that are doing a great job and and have done a great job before the pandemic and are doing it during the pandemic, and people are going to remember these people and these businesses, how they've been creative and innovative and offer excellent customer service, like I said, before and after the pandemic. And I love shopping at both their businesses. So, you know, I was really pleased to see them on the same panel and honored to be invited. Now, I'll be honest with you, like our business has not been as hit as hard as I hear Jeff Appleton. I'm really sympathetic. Gracia and Michelle's business is much, you know, I think that when you look at averages, you look at David's averages and Michael's averages, they don't tell the whole story. Like, because there's, you know, some businesses that are doing quite well and some businesses are doing okay. That's us. We're doing okay. We're doing quite, like, we're very, very, very happy that we're open and doing well. And then there's some that are doing just terrible. And I would agree totally with Dave. I'm going to try to make this quick because I know we're short on time. But I would agree with David's point and Minister Jolie's point is that, you know, I think any programs that come from the government and Jeff Appleton's point that, you know, they have to be more, I know they've done a great job. Government's done a great job. They've done as good as they could, but they have to be more and more targeted those businesses that really need the help. And I think that's my biggest takeaway from, you know, listening today and also from my experience. You know, like when Now, just a little story about how our business has been affected. It's more on the lines of the mental health. When Michael mentioned that, like yeah, our business did dive. Like when it was announced the state of emergency on March 19th. Well, like that was like met with total fear and trepidation and uncertainty, right? And so like in one of our stores, the staff actually walked out. They closed the store immediately as soon as they heard it, because they thought it meant to close the store. And at the same time, we had customers panicking to buy as much as they could because they thought we'd be closed the next day, which we thought we might be closed the next day too. So that brings me to one of the biggest challenges we have is, and it's a learning, it's not a criticism of politicians. It's we learned that when a politician makes a policy statement, what's really important is the details that follow. And Kathy Ware mentioned that, like the details that follow is where it's so important, right? So we learned that, okay, let's not panic as soon as we hear or read into it the worst possible scenario, and find out what the details are, find out what, and this is our staff are learning all the time too. Our staff are hearing this and we're just saying, okay, now let's just be calm. Let's find out what the details are. And we anchored, at very early, we decided to anchor our decision-making in what the chief medical officer was saying and what the premier's office was saying, and just say, okay, let's go with that. Let's not go with what's on Facebook or social media. Let's not go with every rumor. Let's go with what they're saying, and let's trust them and take a chance. And one of the best things I think government did in New Brunswick was have that all-party COVID committee, because I'm sure they disagree like crazy behind doors and that kind of stuff, but it takes some of the politics out. Otherwise, if you're conservative, you believe this. If you're Green Party, you believe this. Liberal, you believe this, and you're the other party, Chris Austin's party. You believe different things, right? So it takes that out of it, and so I think that was really good, and I think it gave us a positive feeling that government was trying their hardest. Now, I don't agree with everything, of course not, but it's not our job to agree as retailers. Our job is to implement their decisions, right? Our biggest thing is our staff. Our staff have done such a great job. And we've asked them to do so many different things. Every day we seem to change what we're telling them that they have to do, what we have to do. And they have been resilient and they have stepped up. So that's the big thing for us. What I'm just going to jump to where I think it's going to go, right? And I am optimistic. I see, that what the hotel business is going through, and that's terrible. I know if we had an airline on here, it would be like terrible as well. And I think that's where government does have to get involved and help those industries and those organizations like Luke was talking about that Pay the Saguen. They need the help to get through this, through this next summer. And, so that Pay the Saguen can stay in business and can keep their people there. And I like the idea that, the TINB's lobbying for 85% wage subsidy for those businesses that need it, right? Now, it was really nice to hear Jeff say that the restaurant businesses have done pretty good under the circumstances. So it's great to see the effort, the creativity, and you see it in the restaurant business, most of all, because it's so visible, how they've stepped up and being creative. So I'm extremely optimistic for a few reasons. One is that, I think everybody, whether it's private business, government, semi-government, have looked at every bit of their business, every bit of their operations and said, can we do this better? Can we do it differently? Should we be doing this? Should we not be doing this? And we certainly have. And we've improved our business. Our business is a better business today than it was before the pandemic. And, I think our people are stronger. So that's really good, and I think that's fantastic. Now, there is a pent-up demand. I think there's going to be a huge pent-up demand. I love David's analogy. It's a 20 roaring 20s, but I love that. I think there's a lot of savings on the sidelines for some people, and I think people will want to go back into the hotels. They will want to go traveling, and it will happen. The third thing I'm extremely optimistic about is we've learned that together we can do a lot. We've learned that we, as a society, we've eliminated the common cold. We have beat COVID for the time being, touch wood, and we are doing a good job. And so we've learned that we can do a lot of things. And so maybe we can solve big problems like the climate crisis, the homelessness issue, the population growth issue, and mental health. So I'm very optimistic that maybe it's going to take 12 months, but we're going to get there. And people like Jeff and Murphy Group and the Gracia and Michelle and all those businesses are having it more tough than we are, honestly. Will hang in there and do what they can to get through it, and government will help where it's required and more targeted. But thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Jeff, and some good optimistic words there. We need some of that because the last 12 months have certainly had their share of not so good news. Last panelist is Alvin Legere of the Elmwood Home Hardware Group. And Alvin and his family have had an extensive experience in retail, and Alvin is here both to speak as a retailer and also as somebody who is now developing new retail with the Granite Center. So Alvin, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Geez, great words, Jeff, and thank you for the support on that local business. We always appreciate that, being local, the entrepreneur. I didn't spend a lot of time. I guess I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to us. I guess I don't know if we want to finish on a positive note, but our industry between you and I has actually been sales positive. I think interesting, people did not travel and vacation, and instead, I think, decided to stay home and upgrade their properties. Now, having that said, this did not happen without some challenges, obviously. We at the beginning, we were on the same roller coaster. You know what I mean? We questioned, how are we going to survive? My wife and I had some major discussions the first few nights. What's going to happen? All the work we did, are we going to survive this? And so we did the same thing as everybody else. We took a layoff of 20% of people the first few days, and we cut all our purchasing, cut from our suppliers and manufacturer. But funny enough, within 2 weeks, things changed very quickly. Everybody got caught off guard. The whole industry never expected this right across the country. People decided this, you know what, we got to keep our mental health in play. We're going to start painting. We're going to do some little projects. Our honey-do lists are going to get reduced. And it has been very positive on that side. One big thing was supply chain. We really struggled with supply chain. My inventories were getting dropped too quickly. We had product on order we could not get, and it's still a problem today. The industry really misread the situation, and you're noticing, we've noticed the LBM, the lumber side of the business, how we've had so much increases in pricing. There's nobody. We go back to the mill stopped cutting wood. They stopped buying lumber in the trees in the woods. So the whole process was quite different, I guess. But then we fell into not long after that, we fell into what they call, we were noted as essential. So we were able to stay open, fortunately, and we immediately obviously put a task force in play. We wanted to make sure we followed all the proper guidelines. The first thing I wanted to do, I just didn't want anybody, my own employees, being infected. We are front lines. Nobody knows what the future was going to bring. But I was fortunate. My leadership team, we were on Zoom calls 2 to 3 times a week to make sure we immediately set up some technologies in the house, and making sure that we could keep our communication as high as possible. The other thing too was, again, we talked about inventory issues, but our inventory team was chasing essentials 7 days a week. We had the cleaning supplies. We needed to get the product in. like you say, like Jeff said earlier, my impress of my team here was how they jumped on and they worked 7 days a week to find product to be able to supply our local customers. You know, being local like this, we were able to adjust to the market in our local market. You know what I mean? The demand was there, so we took it as an opportunity. What do you know, as a retailer, what do? You let's do the business. I mean, you know, one of Home Hardware's corporate strategic imperatives today is to provide customers what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. And that's and I internally myself here, my strategic imperative with my team here is basically having the right product at the right location in my store at the right time of year. So making sure that we have a strategic. And the reason I'm talking to you about this is because a year ago we weren't talking as heavily about this kind of thing. Our market has changed. Our industry, retailing, I think, is changing. And we talked about earlier how many more people have been buying online. And if you know, we say, you know, there's a discussion about the challenge that you folks that retailers are facing. I know it asked the question, what is my biggest challenge? My biggest concern today and down the road is the change of the online, and that's caused by the new generation. You know, I go back to looking back, and you know, retailers are always challenged, and we've always adjusted ourselves to this. But online, I mean, Home is recognizing this on a corporate level. I think we have to modernize ourselves. I talk of a few of you people here that are probably listening have been in my stores, and some of my older customers today we, you know, a year and a half ago we challenged, we looked up at putting more time on Facebook and Instagram and all that. We're much more active there, and we are seeing the younger faces. So it's a continuation of changes. I think we just can't sit back on our laurels, and that, you know, this pandemic is actually, I think we feel it has advanced that technology and that purchasing online a bit quicker than we expected. And we find that that's important to start investing into that side. If you're not getting yourself involved and engaging that younger customer, I have an older gentleman here at my Elmwood been with me for 25 years actually, and he's preparing to retire. But he said, you know, he's noticing since our engagement with the social media and the Facebook and following, the much younger customers are coming in again. Now our challenge is how we're going to keep them. You know, the younger generation in our minds are they want to shop local, but they don't want you have to be you've got to be work to their convenience. You know what I mean? So we find that's one of our bigger challenges right now. We're talking a lot, how do we engage and attract that younger generation? You know, our older generations, they're the ones that are going to be spending the money in the future, and how do we keep it there? We enjoyed this pandemic increase. There's no question about it. It's great to see that. But how do we, now our discussion, how do we hold on to this? How do we keep them engaged, and keeping them coming back to our home? And that's basically our biggest challenge in these times. You know, what do we need for full recovery? I'm looking forward to stability. I mean, stability is very difficult. Right now, we're struggling to get the inventory. You know, we still have lots of constructions going on in our city, and we're being told it's not about the price, it's about getting it. So keeping the supply chain concerns me, and that's one of probably our biggest things we've had to fight with. You know, it's an interesting time. I really, like you say, but my biggest message that I want to send to any retailers, because I go back in the 1980s and I think back when I was in business here, or in the early 90s, when the Home Depots, the bigger box stores came into phenomenon, and people said, you know, how are you going to survive? Well, we had to make adjustments in those days, and we're still here today. So are we going to survive through the pandemic and through the changes of the new retail generations? We believe so, but you have to be flexible and willing to change, and you know, always listen to different people, listen to the markets, and be open to that change. It's what you did 10 years ago is completely different what you do today. That's one of my messages. So, yes, sir, I know we're back on time, so I won't dwell on it too long for you. But in closing, I say I really appreciate the invitation to speak. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alvin. And once again, we unfortunately have run out of time for questions from the audience, but anybody who's posed a question, we'll try to capture those and perhaps send them to the panelists for follow-up, because it would be great to get their take on this. And also, I want everyone to know that today and the summit is just the start of a series of one-off webinars on some of these issues. So we will definitely follow up this spring with a separate session just on retail and a separate one just on tourism and hospitality. So thanks again to Michael, Michelle and Gracia, Jeff and Alvin for the great discussion today. We urge everyone to continue to support local in 2021. You may have seen in recent days the Chamber is working with partners on a Love for Local 2.0, which will be a provincial support local campaign for the next 12 months. So you can expect to hear lots about that. It is time for another break. We are a little bit behind schedule, so we'll limit the next break to 3 minutes. So it's going to be quick, and we'll be back with our next keynote speaker. Thank you very much.